In 1992, Jim Carville said it's the economy, stupid. Well, it's the economy again. Let's take a look at Pennsylvania's next on Behind the Headlines.
This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenewalt, Senior Fellow of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy, and I'm joined by Maura Donnelly, my co-host. Maura, welcome.
Hello, Charlie.
Well, we're progressing through the year, and
Yes.
my goodness, it seems like we're caught in the middle of the presidential season already. Doesn't it seem to be a bit premature, Maura?
It does. There's a lot going on, that's for sure.
Yeah, we get the presidential elections sooner and sooner and sooner.
We do.
And yet, just
And they
like,
want our money sooner and sooner and sooner.
Oh, you're right, you're right. And just like James Carville said a few years ago, the issue, again, seems to be, it's the economy, stupid.
Yes, and jobs.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely. Still jobs.
Exactly. And related to jobs, of course, is the importance of education and higher education. And to talk about higher education in Pennsylvania, we're fortunate today to have with us one of the state's best experts on higher education, and that's Ken Mash, who's the Vice President of APSCUF. Ken, welcome to the show. It's nice to have you back. You've been here a little while ago.
I was here. It's good to be back, Charlie.
Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. We, of course, have gone through a spring and early summer where we have talked on this show frequently about the governor's administration's early proposals for how higher education was going to be treated in the budget. And some of the cuts that were called for were draconian, to say the least. The largest cuts that we've seen or that were visualized or talked about anywhere in the country of 50% or more for higher education. Now, that didn't come to pass when the budget finally was adopted. What kind of cuts did higher education, however, see in Pennsylvania with the governor's first budget?
Okay, well, for the 14 state schools that comprise the state system of higher education, as you said, originally it was proposed that there be a 50% cut, which was actually a little bit more because there was some stimulus money that we had received. So our budget was going down something like 56% if that was going to take place. When all is said and done, though, we wound up with an 18% cut, which is about $90 million. The thing is, though, you know, when we've been over the years been taking cuts and cuts and cuts, and it's become increasingly difficult to do what we do well with the kinds of monies that we're getting from the Commonwealth. But we do continue to do it well. We've cut back about all we possibly can. We're concerned as we enter into this year how we're going to be able to handle that 18% cut. We're concerned about what that means for the future, too.
So you didn't necessarily have a sigh of relief that it was only 18%?
Well, you know, it was a mixed blessing. We were very grateful to our friends, particularly in the legislature, who fought to reduce the amount that the governor had proposed. But at the same time, no, we weren't dancing in the streets. We weren't all very happy. And of course, we're never happy when we wind up with a tuition increase. And we wound up with a 7.5% tuition increase. That's the largest tuition increase since 2002. And it hurts us because we as faculty, we want access. And every time tuition goes up, of course, it becomes more and more difficult for, you know, average people to be able to afford a college education.
Now, being in a position that you're in, Ken, as the vice president of the faculty union that represents all the professors in the 14 state universities here in Pennsylvania, Millersville, Shippensburg, Edinburgh, the Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and so forth, you're in a very good place to be able to assess what will the effect of these cuts that are being brought about by this budget, what will the effects be on the students in the system? What will the effects be on faculty members?
All right, well, we have several universities which have already said that they're looking at can they retrench or lay off faculty members. So we are, of course, concerned that when
Isn't that unusual? Because the numbers are up, aren't they? Enrollment numbers are up. Why would you be laying off faculty members when enrollments are up.
Well, that's 7.5% tuition increase didn't cover the gap that remained from the 18% cut. So the universities are looking at ways to trim their budgets. Of course, we think that the last thing that should happen is that they should be cutting faculty, because cutting faculty means cutting back on programs. It means ultimately hurting the quality of education at our schools. And we believe that our students, the students today, the students of tomorrow, deserve the same kind of quality education that everybody else has received when they've come to our universities.
Well, we all have a lot of friends right now packing up their kids and heading off to various colleges across the Commonwealth. What can the average student expect upon arriving at the university? Are they going to notice anything right away, or are they going to just sort of slowly see the changes?
I think that they'll see, there may be on some campuses, depending on what the circumstances are at the individual campuses, there may be some things that are noticeable. For example, at my university, East Stroudsburg University, I know that class sizes are going up. So there'll be more students in every classroom because they're not going to hire the same numbers of temporary faculties that they had in previous years. In other campuses already, we've seen from last year already, for example, at Kutztown University, there was retrenchment of faculty. At Mansfield University, there also was retrenchment of faculty. And as part of that retrenchment, there's been cutbacks in programs. So, for example, we've seen cutbacks in humanities at Mansfield. So, again, we believe that students deserve a broad education, because it's that broad education that's going to prepare them for the future. And that's what our Commonwealth needs.
Well, Ken, there's an interesting, and you're in a good position to see this development as well. Throughout much of northern Pennsylvania and western Pennsylvania, of course, we have the development of the Marcellus shale industry. You see a lot of this development. I've heard, and we've seen that there are some students that seem to be delaying admission to the university so they can work in the Marcellus shale industry for a little bit longer. Is that something that is a true trend, or what's up with those developments?
Because I don't think we ever thought we'd be discussing Marcellus shale and the state system at the same time.
I never thought I'd be talking about Marcellus shale with
so
you
please,
or with
please
Steve
help
Hicks.
us.
That's right. We are seeing a trend, at least they think they're seeing a trend up there in the northern tier of schools, that some students may be looking for work first. And it also changes the role a little bit of what's expected from those universities too, as far as preparation goes. What are they going to do to respond to the availability of Marcellus shale there? Now, it's funny that you bring that up, because the governor had sort of let it slip out at some point that perhaps some of our universities that are sitting on, where the gas is, that perhaps that they would be, able to reap some of the benefit of the income there, which we can't do right now. We're not allowed to. It would go into the state coffers.
But if there is an impact fee, ultimately, that there may be some benefit. Is that what you're saying? They haven't really put the impact fee in place, but you may be able to fund job programs. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Yeah.
The impact fees really go to the local communities to offset, infrastructure problems that might occur there. There's been talk out there, really, that if a university like Mansfield or Lock Haven is sitting on top of.
Oh,
the gas,
sitting on top
right,
of. Now I
yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That they might be able to use those revenues to
just like
help
the average homeowner.
Right.
Yes,
the average
absolutely.
homeowner. As it stands right now, that money, if it was brought, if they did drill there, that money would go to the Commonwealth, to the general fund, not to our universities. But we don't know that anything's going to happen with that.
Okay.
Well, the interesting thing is, traditional wisdom says that in times of economic distress, that the importance of education goes up, that we need to retrain part of our workforce, that we need to prepare for the future, and that is the job of education and higher education in particular. Yet here we're seeing cuts to higher education when we're entering some of the worst economic times we've known in Pennsylvania since the Great Depression. What do you think the role of higher education should be, Ken, now and in the future?
Well, it's a great question, because we do see more and more people suggesting that our university should be more involved with job training, or do very specific things to help people get jobs. We're convinced, however, that the best way to prepare people for the future is to make sure that they have a well-rounded education. That we don't know what the jobs of tomorrow will necessarily be. So what we need to do is to prepare our students so that they take classes in the humanities and economics and all the other subjects that are available to them, so that they are flexible and they can move from job to job. And on top of that, we want to make sure that there are not just jobs in Pennsylvania. We want to make sure that there are quality jobs in Pennsylvania, and we want to make sure that we have a quality workforce. So we want, as much as possible to create high-end jobs here. We're in a bad spot here because I think an organization called Complete College America said that estimates about 57% of Pennsylvanians will need at least some post-secondary education. And right now we are 46th out of 50 states as far as students with a college degree. That just seems unwise.
We've been mired there for many, many, many years in that lower bracket.
We really are. And, if we really want to create those good jobs, if we want to really make sure that our future is a bright one and that we're doing the best that we possibly can, we need to invest. This is what college, college education is about. It's about, for the individual student who's going to get the education, to try and prepare them for a lifetime, both, a lifetime, in an occupation, but also a lifetime as a citizen in the Commonwealth. But that investment doesn't just pay off for the individual student. That investment pays off for the entire Commonwealth. What you wind up with are students who are getting better jobs, who pay more tax money because they have a better job. You're winding up with good businesses moving into the area. So it's not just a benefit for the individual person getting it, it's a benefit that we all enjoy when we have a well-educated populace. So, we just don't think it's wise policy, but that's, the trend seems to be to defund higher education and put more of the burden on the individual to pay for it, even though it's a collective benefit.
I think a lot of businesses would agree with you. They would rather get the well-rounded adult who's ready to work, and they would train them in the specifics of their industry or their position. So I think it's very smart to be sticking to keeping the well-rounded education.
And whenever you see an interview with the CEO of a major corporation, and they talk about what kind of employee they want to have, time and time again what they say is, we want that student who has the broad background. We want the student
the ability to learn,
right? Yeah. Who's flexible, who has the ability to work well with other people. The very kinds of things that come along with a quality college education.
Someone who reads well, who writes well, who speaks well, and has a broad knowledge of a variety of fields.
And can think critically too.
Sure.
And that's really what is college all about. It's about really being in those situations where you're challenged. And you're challenged to think, and you're challenged to think in different ways than you may ordinarily be. So, you may not change your perspective, but at least you have resources on which to rely.
Yeah.
Okay. 10 seconds. How are contract negotiations going? Can you talk about that?
Well, I could tell you this, they're ongoing, and we're hopeful that we'll have them done soon.
Okay, so that will be taken care of between the Commonwealth and the Union. Okay, very good. It's been wonderful having you here again. We look forward to having you back soon, Ken, and we'll be back with the second segment right after this. Stay tuned.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by the Pennsylvania Business Council, envisioning a Commonwealth in which residents enjoy a very high quality of life in sustainable communities. The Council works aggressively to define key long-term policy strategies and solutions that make the Commonwealth more competitive, creating and sustaining a better Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, by the Edward H. and Jeannie Arnold Foundation, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by Daily Express, transporting construction, farm, and industrial equipment throughout the United States. And by Penn Waste, your best local choice for your waste removal and recycling needs.
Hi, welcome back to the second segment of Behind the Headlines. On this segment, Mara and I will be continuing our examination